Story time. Megan walked into her homeroom class one morning. Her black nails, Ouija planchette necklace, and horror pin-covered backpack set her apart from her other classmates in uniform. Her friend Rachel had her back turned to her. Megan grinned, slowly crept up behind her, and let out a deep, fake growl in her ears. She jumped. Megan started laughing, but Rachel was not in the mood. God, what's with you today? They found something on Tessa's computer this morning. It's been all over the news. Tessa Rodriguez, a junior at St. Regent High, has been missing for the last 7 days. But this morning, authorities have made a discovery that might offer clues to her disappearance. This was the last website Tessa visited before she went missing. It lists a set of rules to follow. According to the website, if done correctly, you will be transported to either heaven or hell, depending on where you will end up. Oh my God. Do you think that ritual actually works? Rachel shot her a disgusted look. A student is missing, Megan. You clearly don't need to do the ritual. You're obviously going to hell. Hey. Well, what if this was just a setup? Like, whoever took her made it look like this website is what got her. Who knows? I just feel really bad for her parents. Her brother dies, and now she's missing. Oh, right. Did they ever find out how it happened? Total freak accident. He had a heart condition or something that just randomly acted up. The bell rang, and it was time to head to class. Megan couldn't stop thinking about that website and about that ritual. After school, Megan came home and locked herself in her room. She pulled out her laptop and searched where heaven and hell intersect. News article after news article popped up, speculating the disappearance of Tessa. Megan scrolled page after page until finally she found the original website. The black background with neon green text made it look incredibly outdated and insincere. She began to read the rules. Number 1, go to an intersection in the street. It has to be 3 a.m. and you have to be completely alone. If any cars drive by, it will not work. Number 2, close your eyes and cover your face with your hands. Number 3, walk across the intersection chanting this phrase. 10, 9, 8, 7. Guide me on my way to heaven. 6, 5, 4, 3. Unless the other realms for me. 2, 1. It has begun. Number 4. Do not open your eyes until you've crossed to the other side of the street. If you have performed the ritual successfully, you will now find yourself in either heaven or hell, depending on where you will go in the future. Do not be fooled. It will look very similar to Earth. Number 5. You must leave the realm before 5 minutes, or risk being stuck. To return, you need to repeat the same process, but starting from the other side of the intersection and walking backwards. Megan closed her laptop. Her eyes fell on her wall, where the program for her cousin Beth's memorial service from 2 weeks earlier was pinned. She had been found dead in her room after an accidental medication interaction. It happened very suddenly, and Megan never got any closure. Megan pulled out her phone, set her alarm to 2:50 a.m., and laid on her bed. Megan sat up and silenced her alarm. Slowly, she crept past her parents' room and out the door. She walked past her neighborhood park and a couple more houses down until she reached an intersection. She looked up and down the street to make sure there were no cars and no people. She set a timer on her phone for 4 minutes. When she felt it was safe, she covered her eyes and began to walk and chant. 10, 9, 8, 7, guide me on my way to heaven. 6, 5, 4, 3, unless the other realms for me. 2-1, it has begun. She was still in her neighborhood. Everything looked the same. She let out a deep sigh of disappointment and began to walk back to her house. As she passed the park, she heard voices coming from the swing set. A pair of twins she hadn't noticed before were laughing loudly now. She continued to walk. "Hi, neighbor!" A man walking his dog across the street called out to her. Megan waved politely and began to quicken her pace. She entered her house and caught her breath. She walked to her kitchen to grab a glass of water. She flipped on the light and stopped. Someone was sitting at the dining table, crying. Megan turned to see who it was. At the table was Beth, the cousin she buried weeks ago. Megan couldn't believe it. The ritual had worked. "Beth, I can't believe you're here. I have so many things I need to ask." "How did you end up here?" I found out about this ritual, and I wanted to try it to see if I could see you, and Brady, he died from a heart condition. See, it wasn't our fault. We didn't do anything." "Why are you telling me this? I thought you would want to know. You were so worried that something was going to happen to us, or people would think what? That we killed him? We didn't kill anyone. His heart killed him. You are my favorite cousin, Megs. I was willing to do whatever you wanted, but you took it too far that night, and I couldn't live with the guilt. It was a harmless prank. You're still going to deny it? Even now that you're here? You really are unbelievable. But I'm not really dead. Wait, where am I?" Footsteps and voices calling her name began to flood the house. Megan ran to the living room and frantically tried to open the window. The voices were getting closer. She managed to slide the window open and pop out the screen. She threw herself out onto the front yard and rolled onto the grass. Once she got back on her feet, she ran towards the intersection where she came from. Her mind was racing as she tried to remember what the rules were for returning back home. She passed the park, now filled with children, all making a beeline towards her. Her chest hurt, her legs begged for rest, but she didn't stop until she reached that intersection. She started on the opposite side as before and walked backwards across the street. But when she reached the other end, she felt dozens of hands grab her all over her body and pull her to the ground. Another student from St. Regent High has been reported missing. The disappearance of junior Megan Redwood makes this the second mysterious disappearance from this school. Authorities are looking into the situation, and if anyone has any information on Megan's whereabouts, please notify the police. If you don't want nightmares tonight, like and share this story and subscribe to my channel. Submit your own stories to storieswithsapphire@gmail.com. For more spooky, supernatural, and spiritual stories, listen to the Stories with Sapphire podcast.
Do you remember, or perhaps crave, anything on our list of the top 10 discontinued food items we miss? Coming in at number 10, we have Doritos 3D. Now, for those of us old enough to remember it, the 90s were a time where 3D was stuck on the end of any product name to make it about twice as cool. So, when Doritos brought out Doritos 3D, everybody lost their minds. They were more like air-filled bugles than, normal two-dimensional Doritos. Doritos 3D might not have changed the world, but they got a pretty big cult following of fans when they were about, who would argue over what was the best flavor: jalapeno cheddar, nacho cheese, or zesty ranch. For unknown reasons, Doritos decided to stop production of them in the mid-2000s, which devastated a lot of people. But I heard online that they are still making them in Mexico. Anyone fancy a road trip? Moving on to number 9 now, we have McDonald's deep fried apple pie. Until 1992, McDonald's made a type of apple pie that became so popular, some people would often go to McDonald's just to eat it. The problem was, though, it was deep fried. And during the 90s, McDonald's wanted to start appearing more healthy, so they stopped deep frying their apple pies and started baking them instead. Now, this upset a lot of apple pie fans who thought thought the new ones just weren't the same. Deep fried is just always better, I guess. Even a deep fried version of me would probably be better. Weird. Moving on to number 8 now, we have Nesquik cereal. Now, before any of our non-American viewers freak out, I know Nesquik cereal is available in a lot of other places, but spare a thought for our many American viewers watching this who have not been able to buy this stuff in years. That's right, Nesquik cereal was released in America as soon as it was invented in 1999. Fans of it quickly fell in love with the 1 centimeter spheres of pure chocolatey goodness and defended it in the Great Chocolate Wars with Cocoa Puffs. Whose side were you on? Then in 2012, Nesquik pulled their cereal from every single US store. Now, Americans have to either just miss it and get over it, or use those strange import companies online to bring it into the country for them like it's some sort of chocolate drug. Alright, next up at number 7. At the number 7 spot now, we have Bugs 2000. Some of you guys watching this might be a bit too young to remember, but at the end of 1999, a lot of people were quite worried that computers would get the dreaded Y2K virus on the very first day of 2000. Some people thought it would be the end of the world. Some other people made Bugs 2000, the fruit-flavoured gummy snack. When life gives you computer viruses, make gummies. If you take a look at the top right of the packaging, you can even see their claim that they bite back. Spelt like that. Get it? Bite. Love it. Great pun. Obviously, they didn't last too long, but I'm personally looking forward to Bugs 3000 at the end of this millennium. Moving on to number 6 now, we have Gargoyles Exploding Pops. These were ice pops that were made by Nestle and had the popular 90s TV show Gargoyles slapped on the front of them. Now, that was what obviously drew in the kids, but they stayed for the ice pops. On the outside, they were pretty normal looking, but on the inside, they had a gooey center with pop rocks. That's right, when you get into the middle of one, just suddenly starts exploding in your mouth. Just like how gargoyles have a gooey center that explodes in your mouth, don't they? I don't really know what the connection was there. Don't know why they were on the front. Alright, moving on to number 5 now. We have Cadbury Snaps. If you were from outside of the UK, you probably never got to try these, but that's okay. I'm here to make you miss something you never even had before. Who likes Pringles? Who likes chocolate? Well, Cadbury Snaps were baked. So good!
Drink driving, all bad. Milk expires. Data doesn't. Remember that. Get unlimited data banking with Belong Mobile.
Basically, Pringles made out of chocolate. They were made by British chocolate company Cadbury, who are famous for making quality chocolate, and so when they took their chocolate expertise and applied it to the genius shape of Pringles, everything just made sense. Sadly, they took it away again at some point in the last 10 years. I tried to look online, but that's all I could narrow it down to. Some point in the past 10 years. I'm starting to wonder if they ever existed at all. Alright, we're at number 4 now. And what do we have? We have Swiss cheese crackers. These crackers were immensely popular in the 80s in America, which may have even surprised Nabisco, the company who made them, because they were basically just crackers in the shape of Swiss cheese slices. Now, they were around a bit before my time, so I can only tell you what others online have said about them. One fan said they had just the right amount of cheese, crunch, and texture, and that many people are sad about the loss of this holy food. Holy. I see what you did there. Okay, coming in at number 3 now, we have the McDLT. This was a McDonald's burger that is sorely missed by some people, not because of the actual burger, but because of the packaging. It was served in conjoined containers. One half contained the burger and bottom bun, while the other contained the lettuce, tomato, cheese, pickles, and sauces on the top bun. Now, this was to stop the burger heating up the veggies and the veggies from cooling down the burger, and also keep all the grease from making everything soggy. It was a pretty clever idea, and if it was around today, it would also work for veggie burgers too, but McDonald's sadly stopped doing them in 1991 as they tried to not waste as much packaging. At the number 2 spot now, we have Crunch Taters. Crunch Taters, as you might expect, were crunchy potato chips. All the cool kids were eating them in the late 80s to mid 90s. They came in flavours like Cajun, barbecue, and hoppin' jalapeno. Great name. There are currently so many petitions online where people are asking for them to come back, but a lot of them also said that they ate 5 bags of the stuff every single day when they were kids, not even adults. So, I don't know, maybe it's a good idea that Crunch Taters are a thing of the past. Alright, and finally now at number 1, we have pizzerias. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys love pizza-flavored Pringles, but you should know that they weren't the first to do this. Pizzerias were little pizza-tasting slices of heaven. Now you can tell they were the real deal because they have this little picture of a cheese pizza right on the front. That's quality assurance right there. Of course, as the years went on, other companies out there realised that pizza and chips were a golden formula, and pizzerias were eventually discontinued. So, I might have to go and eat a whole pizza to make myself feel better. Okay, starting off at number 10, we have guacamole Doritos. Now, a lot of us buy Doritos to dip in our guacamole dips, but once upon a time, you didn't need to do that because there was such a thing as guacamole Doritos. It was genius. This freed people up to dip their guac Dorito into a different kind of dip, maybe, increasing dipping efficiency by 100%. And of course, they tasted amazing, obviously, which is why fans of them were left quite shocked, quite confused, and a little bit hungry when Doritos announced they were discontinuing them in 2006. In the time since then, there's been a lot of cheap knockoff imitations, but they've just angered true guac fans so much that they even started their own Facebook page and petition to get back the real ones. So yeah, you know they're serious. Next up at number 9, we have Campinos. This one came from the UK, but I'm sure that everyone is going to miss them when they hear all about them. They were a hard candy that were made using a combination of yogurt or yogurt, whatever, depending on your pronunciation. They have been around since 1966 in various forms, but by 2000, it started to feel like their formula had been perfected because suddenly they were everywhere. I remember it became quite a common sight in the UK to see a bowl of strawberry or summer fruit Campinos laid out in a little bowl for guests. But the gods of discontinued food items eventually grew tired of them and took them away for good. Moving on to number 8 now, we have Calippo shots. Okay, I put this on the list for 2 reasons. Firstly, so many of our Australian viewers wanted this on the list. And secondly, I know it's not discontinued everywhere, so I want you guys to let our desperate Australian friends know where you can still get them. For the rest of you who never heard of them, Calippo shots are tiny frozen pellets that came in flavours like strawberry and lemon, lemon and cola, lemon and lime. Yeah, I think they really like lemon. If you live in one of the lucky countries that still gets these, let me know down below. Alright, next up at number 7 now, we have PB Max. PB Max was the bar for people who love peanut butter way too much, but were still a little bit too embarrassed to just bring a peanut butter jar and spoon to work with them. PB Max was the most peanutty, socially acceptable thing you could get. Creamy peanut butter and oats covered a square whole grain cookie, and then the whole thing was smothered in milk chocolate. Now, I don't think they came in any of the flavours. I couldn't seem to find any before they were discontinued, but you know what? Peanut butter lovers tend to only really have one favourite flavour anyway. Coming out number 6 now, we have Oreo O's. I won't lie to you guys, I'm not really much of a sweet fan. I always prefer savoury stuff, but even I like Oreos. I think we all do. They're just too good. Well, when Oreo realised that everyone loved their snacks so much and that they were often dipping them in milk, they came up with a genius idea, an Oreo breakfast cereal called Oreo O's. It was launched in 1998 and instantly caused millions of kids to start tugging on their parents' sleeves in the supermarket until they got themselves a box. The cereal was discontinued in 2007 and everyone had to get on with their non-Oreo cereal lives, but they do still technically exist. Due to a series of complicated licensing deals and laws, Oreo O's are still being manufactured in South Korea, and I've heard you can actually order them on eBay to wherever you live in the world. I might order a box after this video. Okay, next up at number 5 now, we have Hershey's S'mores bars. Roasting s'mores over a campfire is a popular tradition in North America that has begun to spread all over the world. In 2003, someone at Hershey's had the genius idea of taking the original format of marshmallow and chocolate between 2 graham crackers and turning it into a chocolate bar version. Suddenly, people didn't have to wait months for the next campfire. They could just pick up a s'mores bar pretty much anywhere, and they were a huge success. But even the initial success couldn't save the bar, and Hershey's did end up throwing them all into the campfire forever eventually. Not literally, of course, I think. Next up at number 4, we have Altoids Sours. This was one of the most requested items that I missed out in the previous 2 videos. Altoids are famous for making very minty mints, but perhaps their most popular product was Altoids Sours. Very hard, very sour candies in round tins that were introduced in 2002. Flavours included raspberry, citrus, apple, tangerine and mango, and on Valentine's Day 2005 they even released passion fruit sours, because nothing says I love you more than a face like this. Eventually, I think people got tired of looking like that and the product was widely discontinued. Oh, sour. Alright, on the number 3 spot now, we have Jolly Rancher. These sweet, tangy candies were first introduced in 1949, so they really have been around the block. This was an all-American favourite for many years. Many people remember them for just how many flavours there actually were. There was watermelon, grape, apple, and fire sticks. Then came cherry, orange, and tangerine, lemon, peach, and sour apple. And then blue raspberry replaced lemon, and the whole thing was starting to sound like a soap opera. They've been sold to a lot of different companies over the years, and discontinued more times than I can even count, but I have heard you can still get some on Amazon when they're not totally sold out. Coming in at number 2 now, we have Frankenstuff Wieners. A lot of these are either sausage or peanut butter related, aren't they? Frankenstuffs were hot dogs stuffed with either cheese or chili, and they were sold in the US in the late 80s. The company described them as fun food that features a tunnel of cheese or chili inside a Hormel hot dog. Oh yeah, that sounds really fun. Apparently they used to get so hot the kids would end up burning their mouths on them. Don't know why that was safe to make. Maybe that's why they stopped making them at all. And finally now at number 1 we have Dunkaroos. These were miniature cookies that you dipped in icing. They came in packs of 10 with exactly 1 cubic inch of icing. They came in different shapes such as a hot air balloon or circle with a D on. Now I never had them, but from what I've read online, Americans loved them. They reached peak popularity in the mid-90s, and the company even held a nationwide competition to name their new kangaroo mascot. The winner was Duncan. You get it? I see what they did there. They were discontinued in America in 2012, but in 2016, the company that made them, General Mills, actually encouraged Canadians to bring Dunkaroos from Canada to America on their travels because they were still being made in Canada. They called it Smuggleroos. Yes. I think we're done here. Starting off at number 10 now, we have Tayto Skins. Salt fans in the late 90s went wild for Keebler's Tayto Skins. They were crispy chips that weren't ashamed to let you know where they came from. Potatoes. Firstly, there was the name, obviously, but each one even looked like a little potato slice. One side was dark and the other side was light. This honestly sounds like my dream snack, honestly. I want a cheddar and bacon Tayto skin. I really do. I want them now. And yes, before you say it, I'm aware that you can get a similar thing these days in the form of TGI Fridays potato skin snack chips, but I've only got room for 1 Tayto skins in my heart and stomach. Next up at number 9, we have the Wonder Ball. This was sold by Nestle in the US. For those of you outside of the US, it was basically like a little Kinder Egg. It was the ultimate 90s kid snack in America. A ball made up of an outer milk chocolate shell and with tiny figurines inside, usually Disney themed. They were a huge success until 1997 when campaigners successfully got the Wonder Ball banned because they said it was a choking hazard. The Wonder Ball did make a brief revival in 2000 where they swapped the toy for a themed candy like Pokemon or Disney, but it seems like the whole urban legend of a kid choking to death on a toy never left the Wonder Ball alone, and it was discontinued again. Moving on to number 8, we have the Reggie Bar. Reggie Jackson was a legendary baseball player in the 70s and 80s, and he didn't like the fact that another legendary baseball player, Babe Ruth, had his own candy bar in the form of Baby Ruth Candy Bar, except that had nothing to do with Baby Ruth. Now despite that, one company launched the Reggie Bar, a circle of goodness with peanuts dipped in caramel and covered in chocolate. The crowd went wild. What started out as a little bit of a joke went on to become a hugely popular snack. They're all discontinued now, but I like to think that Reggie still eats one every day. Next up at number 7, we have cinnamon Tic Tacs. These days you can get fruity Tic Tacs, the classic mint flavoured Tic Tacs. You can even get cola Tic Tacs in some places. Tic Tacs is starting to sound weird in my mouth. But some hardcore Tic Tac fans will tell you that there's only one true flavour to rule them all, and that was cinnamon flavour. They were often referred to as winter warmers in the UK because a few of them were said to be all you would need to fight off the cold thanks to their fiery taste. They were first released in the 1970s, but by 2010 they had disappeared everywhere. Presumably people just couldn't handle that kind of heat anymore. Moving on to number 6 now, we have Kellogg's Yo-Gos. This snack was described as yogurt-covered bits. Yeah, bits. Nobody really knows what the bits were, but they tasted pretty good, so that's all that matters, right? They came in a
Crunch time in the...
Different flavours with names such as Strawberry Slam, Berry Banana, and Island Explosion, which, that last one, it really gives no clue about what it tastes like, does it? They claim to give a kid 100% of their daily calcium intake, but even if that was true, there was also a lot of concerns about the amount of sugar in them. Between that and the falling sales, Kellogg's stopped making Yogos, leaving a huge gap in the market for someone else to make nice, tasty little bits. Okay, coming in at number 5 now, we have Koala Yummies. If you talk to any 80s or 90s kid from the US, they won't be a kid anymore, but they will probably remember Koala Yummies. They were a Japanese product, so it was a bit hard to figure out what they were from the Japanese packaged versions, but one bite told you all you needed to know. They were little bite-sized cookies filled with gooey chocolate fudge. Now, if that sounds suspiciously unhealthy for a kid's food, yeah, you're right, it wasn't that healthy. But this wasn't a time of healthy eating for kids. This was the 90s. This was a time for gooey chocolate fudge-filled cookies in the shape of koala bears. A good time. Alright, we've reached number 4 spot now, and we have Cheetos Paws. Now, I'm sure you've all heard of Cheetos. I'm sure a lot of you have tried them. But if you never got to experience Cheeto Paws before they were discontinued, just imagine a regular Cheeto in the shape of a cheetah paw. That's pretty much it. Now, for real though, these ones had great flavour, and they also didn't get stuck in your teeth. Huge bonus for Cheeto lovers. They arrived in the 90s, and they also died in the 90s. Cheetos never gave us a real reason as to why they discontinued them, and I personally feel a little bit cheated. Moving on to number 3 now, we have Kudos bars. These things were mental. They were granola bars, yes. I know I've mentioned those before, yes. They came in peanut butter like a lot of other things I've talked about, but look at the other varieties. Snickers, chocolate chip, M&M's, and variety pack. That last one might be the name of all those other flavours put together, but you get the idea. I never had them, wish I did. They apparently won the 2006 Best Taste Award. I don't know what that means. Maybe they were the most tasty thing on the planet in 2006. Kudos to them. Okay, at number 2 now, we have Rice Krispies Treats cereal. This was a Rice Krispies cereal that was released in 1993. I know what some of you guys are thinking. Wait, Rice Krispies already have a breakfast cereal. It's called Rice Krispies. How can they bring out another breakfast cereal? Well, what they did was they took Rice Krispies, okay, they turned it into a snack called Rice Krispies Treats, which was basically a block of Rice Krispies held together with marshmallow. Then they broke those up and put them back into a cereal box to create Rice Krispies Treats cereal. Genius. Honestly, they barely did anything, and they created a whole new, very successful product that everyone loved throughout the 90s. But in the end, they were discontinued, leaving only their snack bar version left on sale today. But I guess you can always just go and buy that and then break it up into a bowl and pour milk over it, and it will basically be the same as the cereal. Genius. And finally now at number 1, we have something that I should have put in the last video. Can't believe I forgot about it. PB Crisps. The PB stood for peanut butter, and if you like peanut butter, you would have loved these. They were made out of a graham cookie on the outside with a sweet peanut butter cream on the inside, all in the shape of a peanut, obviously. They were first produced by Planters in 1992, but lasted for just 3 years. Now that might seem like a short amount of time, but it was apparently enough for people to get absolutely obsessed with them. Now, there are people signing petitions to bring them back who never actually even tasted them. I'm probably going to be one of those people. They sound amazing. Alright, starting off at number 10 now, we have Dairyly Lunchables hot dogs. Anyone from the UK watching this over a certain age will remember these. Dairyly still make little Lunchable packs where you stack together your own snacks, but for some reason, they stopped doing the hot dog variety. They weren't the best tasting hot dogs, they weren't the biggest. The sauce packet was kind of hard to open, if I'm honest, but hey, you got a free drink with every single pack and a tiny little hot dog. Everyone loved them, except vegetarians and any people over the age of 12, I guess. And it ended up being discontinued from poor sales, but I loved it. We're only at number 9. I'm already starting to feel a little bit hungry, and now we have Smurf Mini Meatballs. Yes, you heard me correctly. In their spare time, Papa Smurf, not the Smurfs, used to make shaped pasta in spaghetti sauce with little mini meatballs. They whacked it in a can, kids loved it back in the late 80s, but they didn't last for too long. Some people said it was the massive amount of calories in that little can, others say the Smurfs just weren't as cool anymore. Personally, I think that was a cover-up. Yeah, where were they getting the meat for all those little mini meatballs? That's all I'm saying. Moving on to number 8 now, we have cheese balls. Cheese balls. Can you guess what flavour and shape cheese balls were? That's right, they were little balls of cheese snacks that were around in the early 2000s in North America. Now, I personally have never had them before, but everyone who has just raves about how amazing they were. Substitutes have come along, but apparently nothing really comes close to just how cheesy, puffy, and bally these cheese balls really were. There was even an official petition on change.org to get Kraft Foods to bring them back. One part of the petition said, and I quote, "I have faith in humanity, but if we can't even agree on scrumptious snacks, then I don't know what we can agree on." Beautiful words there, very nice, all in the name of cheese balls. Okay, we're at number 7 now, and we have pudding pops. In the 1980s, General Foods were looking for a new way to make their Jell-O product exciting again, especially to younger kids. The result? Jell-O pudding frozen fudge pops, otherwise known as pudding pops. American kids went wild for them, and they became a family favorite, selling $300 million worth of pudding pops in just 1 year. But despite their huge success, they weren't actually making that much money off them. General Foods were not in the frozen foods business particularly, so it was costing them much more money and effort than they really wanted. Because of all of this, despite them still being popular throughout the 90s, pudding pops popped out of existence and became a good example of how a product can be popular but still ends up being discontinued. Moving on to number 6 now, we have Flaming Hot Cheetos Asteroids. Most people know Cheetos in their little twiglet shape in normal packets, but there was once a time when everyone could get Cheetos in a ball form called Asteroids from a packet that looked like it contained baby wipes, and they were amazing, quite frankly. Fans loved the heat of these, but for some of them, it just wasn't enough. Well, luckily there was also extra hot Flaming Hot Cheeto Asteroids. Yeah, that was a real name. I can only presume that they killed off all their fans because Asteroids eventually crashed and burned. Next up at number 5, we have Vampire Secret Ice Pops. These black cherry ice pops had a red gooey centre that was supposed to represent blood, but that didn't gross out millions of kids who devoured them in the early 90s. Now remember guys, this is before vampires were cool again, so what made them so popular? Well, it turns out they had an insanely high sugar content. That's why kids would just feast on them so much, and it's also the reason that boring grown-ups got them banned. Can't we all just be fat and eat vampire ice pops? What's wrong with that? Coming in at number 4 now, we have Carnation breakfast bars. Peanut butter and granola. What a combination. Everyone seemed to think these were the healthiest thing around in the 80s because of the granola, but yeah, they were also completely smothered in peanut butter chocolatey goodness, so swings and roundabouts. They weren't great for you at all, and they had a lot of calories, but apparently they tasted great. As years went by and more granola bars entered the market, Carnation breakfast bars started to lose their share of that market and were eventually discontinued. For real guys, check out the granola bar wars of the 80s. It was actually a real thing. Coming in at number 3 now, we have Butterfinger BB. I had never even heard of these until I started making this video, and I don't know how because people seem to love them. They were a small chocolate pellet version of the older and still very popular Butterfinger bar, but they were only around for a short amount of time. They first came out in 1992 and became very popular everywhere thanks to being advertised by none other than The Simpsons. This was very smart because suddenly kids everywhere wanted them. They were discontinued in 2006 and replaced in 2009 with Butterfinger Mini Bites, which BB fans said was not really a fair replacement, and petitions were started online to bring them back again. I don't know what it is with snack fans and petitions. Next up at the number 2 spot, we have Taco Bell Lunchables. Now, if you're from the UK, like me, you probably didn't grow up having Taco Bell, but they're basically the top dogs when it comes to Mexican fast food. In the late 90s, they released Taco Bell Lunchables in North America, which let kids bring a DIY tacos and nachos kit to school with them. It also came with a miniature Capri Sun, which, as you might know, was the best kids drink in the whole world back then. They were discontinued at a time when people were trying to make sure kids ate more healthily, especially at school, and suddenly this DIY fast food kit didn't seem so appealing. But does that mean we don't want them back? Of course not. I want one right now. And finally now, we've reached number 1, and we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pies. If you like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you would have gone crazy for these things. They were small, green glazed pie crusts filled with vanilla pudding cream inside. They were apparently really tasty, and a lot of people want them back, even if they weren't huge Ninja Turtle fans. But I have just one question though. Look at these. Why are they the exact same shade of green as the shell of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? I really hope those are actually pies and people weren't eating tiny baked Ninja Turtles. Yeah. Their tagline of straight from the sewers to you is now sounding a little bit suspicious. Alright, starting off on number 10 now, we have Jumpin' Jack. Doritos made these. I could make a whole video about Doritos products that were discontinued, that everyone wants back. They get through like 10 products a year, it feels like. Jumpin' Jack was one of them. They were cheese flavoured and nothing else, specifically cheddar, Monterey Jack and Swiss cheese. You couldn't even tell how cheesy they were because the powder blended in with the actual chip. They also had jalapeno pepper powder that gave them a little bit of a kick, just the right amount. Next up at number 9 now, we have Nintendo cereal. Yes, Nintendo used to have their own breakfast cereal. I know most of us are too young to remember it, but I think it's so cool that you will probably miss it as soon as you hear about it. I know I certainly do. Nintendo released it in 1988 and it only lasted for 1 year, but oh, what a year that was for Nintendo fans. It was called Nintendo Cereal System. Brilliant. There were 2 bags inside each box. Each one had a different cereal. One was the Super Mario Brothers side and had Super Mario characters, items and stuff that were all fruity flavoured. The other side was Zelda and had little berry flavoured links, hearts, keys and chests. The tagline was 2 cereals in 1. Wow. And I think that is something that we can all agree on. Wow. Most of us were born after the last box was ever eaten, but I think we will all miss it. Next up at number 8, we have the Salsa con Queso Cheeto. Everyone knows that Cheetos do cheese flavour really well. They've got that whole thing down, but they also do spicy quite well as well. But in 2012, they released a Salsa con Queso flavour that was meant to give fans the experience of dipping Cheetos in melted cheese and chili pepper, but without any of the horrible sticky mess on your fingers afterwards. Then, out of nowhere, they just vanished. Like, completely. Even in the short time that they had existed, they had gained a pretty large fan base who even started an online petition to get them back. But, as the old saying goes, the Cheetos company works in mysterious ways. And Salsa con Queso Cheetos were never seen again. We have Easy Squirt Ketchup. What colour is ketchup? Red, isn't it? Obviously. But some of us remember a time when ketchup could be blue, green, pink, orange and teal thanks to Heinz Company's Easy Squirt Ketchup. They launched in 2000 and sold more than 25 million bottles during their first 3 years. Good times. But eventually people started to miss the good old red ketchup, the classic one. Look at it. Being all red, also good times. Sales of Easy Squirt Ketchup began to fall and the product was stopped altogether in 2006. Coming out at number 6 now, we have Space Dust Sizzling Candy. This one is a shout out to the 1970s when the world was still riding high from all the space missions over the past decade. General Foods cashed in on this and made an addictive powder that's totally legal. It was essentially Pop Rocks ground up into a fine powder and it came in flavours like cherry, orange and watermelon. Unfortunately, the name sounded a little bit too similar to the very much illegal Angel Dust, so this is sadly something that only 70s kids will remember. Next up, at number 5, we have Bubble Play. I remember this one. This stuff was amazing. A cherry ice cream baseball glove hand with a little bubblegum baseball in its palm. Ah, how cute. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but I remember being a kid, and the 2 treats in my life were ice creams and bubblegum, so you can tell why I absolutely love this one. Walls promoted it with the slogan, "I love good humour." I mean, I don't think this ice cream was funny in any way at all, just a glove and a baseball. Maybe Walls don't have a good sense of humour, but they made great ice cream. Next up at number 4 now, we have Reese's Bites. I had never had a Reese's cupcake until just a few years ago, but pretty much as soon as I did, people were already saying, oh, you should have tried Reese's Bites. They took the flavour of Reese's cupcakes that everyone loves and turned them into tiny, chocolatey pieces of crunch that made a perfect snack for the movies. I sound like an advert, don't I? For a discontinued product. They stopped making them in the US and they were completely gone by 2007 because they were apparently a choking hazard. So they were either too small for people or people were just eating them too quickly, I guess. They did linger on in Canada for a while before disappearing entirely. Okay, coming in at the number 3 spot now, we have Magic Middles. I never had the chance to try these, but from what I've heard, they were pretty amazing. They were around in the late 1980s and I've heard they were a soft cookie surrounding a fudge, chocolate or peanut creamy centre. They essentially took the good idea of chocolate chip cookies and thought, well, why don't we just make a cookie filled with chocolate? Yeah? Sounds pretty good. Everyone thought it was a genius idea. Everyone ate far too many of them by the sounds of it. But just like a lot of items on our list, magic middles mysteriously melted into memories. Rhyming's fun. Next up at number 2, we have Pokemon cereal. That's right. For all you young Pokemon fans watching this, have you ever wanted to pour milk all over your favourite Pokemon and eat them with a spoon? Me too. Luckily, I'm old enough to remember Pokemon toasted oat cereal with marshmallow bits. The marshmallow bits were in the shape of Pikachu, Poliwhirl, Oddish, and Ditto. They were eventually stopped, presumably because kids were more likely to catch diabetes than Pokemon from it. I know you can't actually catch diabetes, but I really wanted that joke to work. I also heard the Ditto ones would transform in your stomach into another Pokemon, although now that I'm an adult, I'm starting to think they were lying to me about that one. And finally now, at the number 1 spot, we have Cadbury Snaps. If you're from the UK, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If you aren't, imagine Pringles made out of chocolate. You're probably thinking, wow, someone should actually invent that. Well, they did. They were called Cadbury Snaps, and now they're sadly gone. They came in flavours like mint, orange, hazelnut, and classic milk chocolate. Now, I've heard some people say you can still get them in some places in the UK, but for now, you'll just have to cover your Pringles with chocolate and try not to gag.
This one.
Archaeologists uncovered 22 shafts filled with dozens of treasures. They found 54 coffins, some more than 3,000 years old.
Between strange things falling from the sky and secrets buried deep beneath the earth, no matter what we discover, there's always seems to be more questions left unanswered. We all know the biggest thing to hit 2020, but there may have been some discoveries made in 2020 and before that you might have missed. Welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. My name is Rachel Fisher, and join me as we review the top 10 mysterious scientific discoveries. Coming in at number 10. How ambitious were our ancestors when it came to hunting game? Apparently very, according to paleontologists who unearthed over 200 ancient mammoth skeletons beneath an airport construction site in Mexico City. Now we know humanity has been responsible for more than one extinction already, so it's not off the table with the skeletal find. The reason as to why so many bones have been found in the same place remains to be seen, however. But scientists propose 2 potential explanations. One, they went there of their own accord to graze the grass and have some lunch, or they were chased into the mud because humans were hungry. Which one do you think is more likely? But going by the way I feel when I'm hungry, I'm definitely going with the latter. But still, who knows? Coming in at number 9, the discovery of Atlantis. Maybe? We all know the legend of Atlantis and have all dreamed about finding a lost city while snorkeling in the ocean or in our pools at home, or maybe that's just me, but scientists think that they may have found the origin of the famous legend. A group of islands in Santorini, Greece that roughly cover 120 miles could be all that's left of what was Atlantis. Plato said that the city was drowned by a massive wave, and researchers believe that it was indeed a tsunami that was triggered by the eruption of volcano Thera almost 3,500 years ago. Thera was the most powerful eruption ever witnessed, and the horror that came after it may have inspired the legend. Based on new evidence found on the seafloor off the coast of Caesarea, scientists now believe that this wave raced over 600 miles across Santorini. Anyone watching from afar would have witnessed the people and the architecture of the Minoan Empire dragged beneath the waves. Still, despite these discoveries, some even think that Atlantis resides in the Bahamas, or even Japan, or maybe in my pool in the backyard. I guess there's no harm in looking, so get your scuba gear ready. Next up, we have one for all the mummy fans. Coming in at number 8, we have the discovery of over 160 coffins discovered in Saqqara, Egypt this last year. The Saqqara necropolis is a burial ground in the ancient capital of Memphis that has been undergoing excavation for over 3 years. This is the first time these coffins have seen the light of day, or any other humans for that matter, in 2,500 years. One of the mummies, which was wrapped in cloth, was discovered through X-ray technology to be so well preserved that the entire inner structure was intact. Along with the mummies and sarcophagi, 40 artifacts have been found as well, including funerary masks and figurines. There is no doubt that there will be plenty more to reveal in the coming year, along with plenty more questions. Coming in at number 7, we're going all all the way back 5,000 years ago. If you're a fan of Outlander or just tried and true mysteries altogether, you know about Stonehenge. But for those who don't, well, I'll just tell you. Stonehenge is an ancient circular structure of megaliths dating back all the way to 2500 BCE in Salisbury, Wiltshire, England. 92 stones, all ranging in size, make up the structure, but no one knows who built it for sure and where they come from. The smaller stones in the center, called blue stones, have been traced back to Wales, but up until last July, no one had any idea. But the question still remains, how did they get to Salisbury? The Sarsen megaliths weigh individually around 50,000 pounds and somehow ended up 25 kilometers south of where they came from. Someone had to drag them there, but the question of who and how still remains. Now it's time to look to the sky. There are plenty of mysteries in the great beyond, and scientists can't get enough of them. If you've ever watched a science fiction show or TV show, then you're familiar with black holes as pretty effective plot devices. Coming in at number 6, we have the discovery of a new type of black hole, one based on a theory Einstein predicted 100 years ago. In 2020, researchers at Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, aka LIGO, announced that they had yet again discovered ripples in space-time. What? What does that mean? These ripples are called gravitational waves, which are a result of two massive objects colliding in space, i.e. black holes or neutron stars. The last recorded similar disturbance was in 2019, a result of two neutron stars, which are dense remnants of dead stars, colliding. But this time, they didn't find any sign of collision, which means that the theory of two neutron stars colliding and immediately forming a black hole can in fact happen. Einstein predicted this a century ago, though he never thought that we would be able to measure gravitational waves. Scientists still want to wait and accumulate more examples of the phenomenon before officially classifying it as a new kind of black hole, but still, it definitely makes you wonder what other predictions have been made that are waiting out there to be discovered. Which brings me to number 5. The search for signs of life continues as scientists discover a substance produced by anaerobic microbes on Earth in Venus's atmosphere. Phosphine is often produced by volcanoes or lightning strikes, but with the amount they found in the atmosphere, it had to be made by something else. Anaerobic microbes also produce phosphine here on Earth, which gives scientists the idea that there could be some kind of life just next door. After more tests, however, it turns out that there wasn't nearly as much in the atmosphere as initially predicted. But even with a smaller amount, there is still a chance of life on Venus. I don't know about you, but I'm really looking forward to some new neighbors. But Venus may not be the only place to find life or even to home. Coming in at number 4, the exciting new discovery of water on Ceres, the largest dwarf planet located on the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Of course, scientists don't think that Earth can be our home forever, so we're always looking for new real estate, and we may have found one. In August 2020, NASA's Dawn orbiter captured images of water seeping onto the surface of Ceres. The search for a habitable planet with water is crucial when seeking out a potential new home, so of course this got scientists super excited. It's speculated that the water comes from a saltwater reservoir located 25 miles beneath Ceres' Ocator crater. It could be hundreds of miles wide, and some scientists even speculate a reservoir the size of an ocean. Should the call arise, are you ready to pack your bags and go where few have gone before? But coming back down to our beautiful home we call Earth, we've got number 3 coming in very, very hot. We are getting closer and closer to number 1, and if you're enjoying these crazy universal finds, go ahead and click the like button and subscribe for more mysteries. This one really gets me excited, because according to a study published on January 28, 2020, we have now found the oldest recorded material on Earth to date. Scientists analyzed fragments of meteors in Australia that apparently contain stardust from 5 to 7 billion years ago. That's older than the oldest rock formations on the planet, which date to around 4.4 billion years. Why is this so exciting? Well, I'll tell you. The evidence found within these materials support a theory that the majority of the stars formed in an explosion over 7 billion years ago instead of gradually over time. It always blows my mind to think that life just exploded into existence. I mean, come on, how cool is that? So, we've talked about potential new life on Venus and water on Ceres, but what about actual aliens? Are they out there? And better yet, already here? Well, among some of the weird, crazy things that happened in 2020, Someone may have let it spill that aliens do exist and they have been trying to contact us. Former Israeli space security chief says that aliens exist and that ex-President Trump knows about it. The former head of Israeli Defense Ministry Space Directorate claimed that the unidentified flying objects have asked not to publish that they are here, but humanity is not ready yet. He also claims that the extraterrestrials are curious and want to understand the fabric of the universe. Ashed then goes on to say that President Trump was aware and was going to tell the world before being persuaded to keep the news to himself in order to prevent hysteria. I mean, like we didn't have enough to deal with in 2020. He also continues to say that there is an underground base in Mars which includes both American and alien representatives. This story sounds super insane and definitely too good to be true.
Supply and demand
And production.
These niggas ain't real, dog. I shoot guns to kill, dog. I just want some meals, dog. Screaming for the deal, dog. These niggas ain't real, no. These niggas ain't real, no. I shoot guns to kill all. I shoot guns to kill all. These niggas ain't real. No. These niggas ain't real. No. I shoot guns to kill. Oh, I shoot guns to kill. My back against the wall. I'm losing my mind, it's time for murder. How could I see you as a threat when you are somebody that I never heard of? You got a Uzi, I got a tech, and my homie keep a burner. I give him the look, he laugh like a creep, and then we go and we just burn you. I'm tired of lies, I'm tired of rumors. They gave me some money I should've got sooner. Blackball in the rap game, they'd rather see me sell cocaine. They'd rather see me in a prison, dog. My children up in visit, dog. Writing letters, making calls, thinking about the day we used to ball. I'll shoot you down. I'll shoot you down, down, down. I'll shoot you down. I'll shoot you down. I'll shoot you down. I'll shoot you down, down, down. I'll shoot you down. I'll shoot you down. I'll shoot you down, down. These niggas ain't real, dog. I shoot guns to kill, dog. I just want some meals, dog. Screaming for the deal, dog. These niggas ain't real, no. These niggas ain't real, no. I shoot guns to kill, oh. I shoot guns to kill, oh. These niggas ain't real. No, these niggas ain't real. No, I shoot guns to kill. Oh, I shoot guns to kill. Oh, if I pull a drive-by bandana on my face, if I pull a drive-by, then I might have to beat that case. All of that shit that you talk on the phone, keep that energy when I'm in your home. Robbery, homicide, are you a gangster? You decide. I don't want apology letters. I don't want to hear that bullshit that you happy that I'm doing better. That is a lie. Niggas like you should be crucified. The only time that you believe in God is every time that you about to die. You the type to go to jail, read the Bible. I'm the type to go to jail, be a psycho. You the type of motherfucker shoot a handgun. I'm the type of motherfucker shoot a rifle. And I know that you know that I know that you is a damn hoe. And I know that you know I'm a double drive in a Lambo. These niggas ain't real, dog. I shoot guns to kill, dog. I just want some meals, dog. Screaming fuck a deal, dog. These niggas ain't real, no. These niggas ain't real, no. I shoot guns to kill all. I shoot guns to kill all. These niggas ain't real.